Hey guys, into the end here. Today, let's do a draft video. We are currently in Diamond in draft, so we still have yet to climb into Masters this month. Although it is only the 7th day of December, so we have quite some time. So because because we're not in a rush to sort of rush into Masters, we can have some fun with these drafts. I mean, as long as you don't mind me losing, we can try and maybe not force, but lean a little bit more towards fun, interesting drafts. But so let's take a look at this first pack. Memory Dredger is clearly the best spell. Best card. Strangers are always perfectly playable. Icequake is powerful, but it's very expensive. And as you guys know, I don't like starting my draft with very expensive cards unless I can help it. Announcer is fine. I like Pummel as a trick. This is too expensive, I think. I'm not a big fan of playing 8-drops. So I think Memory Dredger is the best card, followed by probably the two Strangers and the Valkyrie the Announcer. And then followed by the Sentry, the Pummel, the Line Breaker, and the Icequake. And these two only because it's so expensive. Otherwise, their effects are quite powerful. But we're going to go ahead and take the Memory Dredger. It's the most powerful card, and it's also the one that is most likely going to lead to a fun and interesting deck. So let's take that. Ooh. If we're playing black, we could go Gimmick and get some kind of a Life Force oriented deck, which will be interesting. But this pack is too good for us to take something like this so early. This card is really bad on its own. You need a lot of enablers or sort of payoff cards to go with it. So it's kind of not a good time to pick it. I think this is kind of a deck type that you find yourself accidentally falling into if all the stars lined up properly. I like Tranquil Scholar. I like the Noble Fireman quite a bit, but I love the Archive Curator. These three cards I think are probably the most powerful in this pack, followed closely behind by Roosting Owl. So I think it's going to be one of these four cards. I don't think we'll consider anything else in this pack. The biggest strike against Archive Curator is that it's Zenin, and Zenin is just the most awful color combination. I like Argenport quite a bit. And this is actually a very powerful 2-drop to bring back over and over again with a Memory Dredger. I think an Argenport list with these two cards could lead to something interesting. Noble Fireman is good, but it does lock us up into a kind of a specific archetype. You do want a semi-aggressive Praxis deck that likes to go wide, and that really locks you in, even though it is a very powerful card in that archetype. Or even if you splash this card and you're not Praxis, if you're splashing this card, then your deck is most likely looking to be aggressive and looking to go wide. Otherwise, you wouldn't want this effect. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Tranquil Scholar over the Curator just because I don't like Zenin, and also this is a 4-drop and this is a 2-drop, and this leans us towards a more interesting strategy. Ooh, Piercing Grief. Perfect. Although, I have to say, Memory Dredger and Piercing Grief is not a combo because this puts it directly into play and you don't get the Destiny trigger, you don't get to draw a card, and of course, you trigger this effect after you have hit your opponent, so you don't get to attack with the Piercing Grief. So what happens is you just bring it back and it just dies right away and it does absolutely nothing. So that's kind of funny. But Piercing Grief is an interesting card. It's a pseudo card advantage. Typically speaking, you're just paying 2 to gain 6 life and maybe do 3 damage, maybe trade with one of your opponent's cards, but unlikely. But then when you draw it the second time, you do draw another card off of it, so it replaces itself. So it's actually just 2 power to gain 6 life and a very, very, very delayed card draw effect. It's not bad if the games are going to go a little bit long. Not the greatest top deck, of course, in the mid game. Other than that, I think Roland's Choice is the most powerful card. This is a really bad pack, by the way. I think the only playable cards in this entire pack is the Piercing Grief, the Roland's Choice, and the Bring Down, and the Hatchling here. These 4 cards. I'm actually pretty happy staying on track here with Argenport. With probably Roland's Choice, it is just the best card in this pack by a lot. And definitely better than Piercing Grief. But there's so many fun things you can do with Piercing Grief, though. If you're playing some kind of a sacrifice theme, you can use Devour to get a lot of value for this card later on. Um, but no, I think Roland's Choice is too powerful. Let's just take the Roland's Choice. Okay, so as you... there are no Justice cards, which is really unfortunate for us. There is a blue card, a black card, a red card, and a bunch of time cards. So time is looking super open, whereas Argenport is not. That's too bad. I think of all these cards here, Bolster has by far the most powerful effect. But the Striped Arachidon is also a very good card, and it's unconditional, whereas the Bolster is a conditional effect. I think as a fourth pick in a new draft, we're just gonna go ahead and pick up the Bolster because it has by far the highest upside. If we don't end up being an Argenport and we end up being in Combre or, God forbid, Zenin, this is still a fine card. So let's just grab that over the Arachidon here. I don't think any of the other cards are in consideration. Even though Journeyman Armorer is quite good, I'm hesitant to branch out into two new colors here. So let's just grab the Bolster. Okay. Shadow is still somewhat open. Justice is completely cut, so it's unfortunate because if we're taking the Piercing Grief, we would have been happier with just a 2 Shadow cards. But right now, the Roland's Choice is going to have to be a splash, I think. And the Tranquil Squalor is most likely not playable if you're not going to be main Justice. Here, I think we're going to go ahead and take this an Umbran Thirster. This card is deceivingly okay if you can trigger its Life Force a few times, because it does get +1 every time, so it can eventually become a 3/4, 4/4, 5/4 flyer, which is pretty decent. Long Shot Marksman is decent, but I'm not super in... Actually, because we have Memory Dredger, the Long Shot Marksman has gone up in stock. The idea of ultimating it and bringing it back and ultimating again is actually a really nice one. And if we're not playing green, then we have no 2-drops. Actually, let's take the Long Shot Marksman first. I think there'll be opportunities to take up more Umbran Thirsters later, if we do pick up a few more life gain cards. This deck's not looking to be a super interesting deck. It's kind of a straight up good stuff deck so far, but let's see what we can do. That's not a sign that green is open. This is not a good card. But Argenport Stranger is a very good card. Definitely our pick here over pretty much nothing else. And the reason for that is because the Argenport Stranger will help us splash Roland's Choice regardless of what our main colors are. Whereas I know Zenin Stranger would be nice if we are going to be in Zenin, but I'm not sure yet. But I'm pretty sure I want to splash Roland's Choice if we're playing Shadow as our main color, and it's looking like we might be. So, yeah, definitely going to be the Argenport Stranger here. Wow. Huh. Jeez. Super late Purify and also a pretty late Journeyman Armorer from like 2 packs ago is telling me Praxis is definitely open. We haven't seen any good red cards, but red's pretty weak in the set. And we have actually seen some late time cards that are pretty good. So I think Praxis is open. But if we are Praxis, we have 2 playable cards in the entire pack, and we lose 3 perfectly good cards. This is a tough decision. This basically, if we do decide to switch, this is our last chance. Because any later than this, I think is too late. I guess what we're comparing to here is Purify versus the Bludgeoner here. I'm going to take the Bludgeoner and stay on black, because who knows what happens in the second pack. At this point, I will sacrifice some very good playable cards and 2 new colors to stay in primarily Shadow. I want to end the first pack with primarily Shadow cards, because that leaves us flexible and open to whatever bomb we open in the second pack. Let's go ahead and grab that. Late Cyclops. Um, we know for a fact Justice is super cut, so if we end up being an Argent port, we're not going to get any good Argent port cards at all, and we're only going to be able to pick up the good green cards in the second pack. So I'm really turned off of Argent port right now. Um, and if someone is cutting us an Argent port, then they're certainly going to cut us on the good black and green cards as well. So I'm really uh, discouraged from using Argent port. So I think what we have now left is pretty much just Zenin, or perhaps just mono black at the moment. And if that's the case, I think the grenade fits a little bit better with our sacrifice memory dredger theme here. But Stone Scar has really weak commons. All the best Stone Scar cards on packs 2 and 4 are uncommons or better. So it's kind of rough going down the Stone. I think it's easier to pick up playable Felon cards than it is to pick up Stone Scar, which pushes me towards the Cyclops and going Felon instead. This is actually pretty tough. But then again, we already have a bunch of 4-drops. I don't know how many more 4-drops I want. Let's take the grenade. No, this is hard. This is really hard. Is blue more open in third pack, or is red going to be more open in third pack? I think, assuming both red and blue are open in the third pack, I think there are just a lot better blue commons than there are red commons. So I think most likely we're going to pick up better blue cards if we go into blue. And we're most likely going to have a better Felon commons in the second and fourth pack. So probability-wise, I think we should just go for the Cyclops here. Okay, well now we have a bunch of red cards. Let's just take the super expensive 7-drop removal spell. This card is not good. It's super mediocre. 7 mana removal spells is 100% a tempo loss, 100% of the time pretty much. But having one unconditional removal spell at the very top end, I think it's okay. No more than one of these cards though. Okay, yeah. Crafty Yeti is playable. We don't want any of these cards. A very late Spell Shield Architect. Ooh, Torn of Spiders. Torn of Spider is pretty good. You can, 3 power for 1/1 Deadly Spider is not great, but at least it blocks any unit. And later in the game, you're going to get 2 or 3 spiders, and that's pretty decent. But Execute is also really good. But I think Torn of Spiders is kind of like an Execute in the sense that a 1/1 Deadly Spider is going to be able to block anything that doesn't fly. That's obviously not as good as Execute, but it has a pretty high upside of making multiple spiders. It also has a pretty good synergy with a deck that likes to go and play around with sacrificing effects. Although it's a counter combo or a non-bow with Memory Dredger, which brings things back from your void, which reduces the number of spiders that you get. Because we're not 100% sure that we're blue yet, we have 2 blue cards, but we're not 100% sure, we're not going to pick up a first pick blue card at this moment. So I think it really is just going to be the Torn of Spiders here. Wow. Madness is really good for our deck if we can pick up a couple of copies of Devour, but clearly, because we are already black, we would just go for the Direwood Beast Collar, which is clearly the best card. The good thing about being in Feln, though, is in the third pack, if we can pick up any Ice Bowls, we can trigger the Infiltrate of the Direwood Beast Collar very easily. And in this pack, we can pick up some Levitates or some unblockable spells, and that will also be a very powerful combo. Yeah, I think we'll just slam this Beast Collar here and not really worry about the rest of the cards. Obviously, the Explorer, the Madness, the Wisdom, and the Sidearm are all perfectly playable in our deck, but this is by far the best. We actually drafted a deck that's very much like this before, and we did really well with it. I think we went 7-2, losing 1 game because we punted it. So blue is looking pretty open on this round around. So green looks somewhat cut this pack. Time looks somewhat cut, but red, blue, and black all seem okay. Although these are pretty mediocre red cards. But blue looks very open and black looks super open because both of these black cards are good and these blue cards are very much playable. Uh, I'm gonna pass on Subvert because this card has a very high variance. It could be amazing when you grab one of your opponent's amazing cards, or it could be terrible if you get one of his power that he's holding and you don't need any more power. Um, Another reason why I don't like Subvert is that how good it is actually inversely proportional to actually it's no sorry how good it is directly proportional to how good your opponent's deck is, because the better cards that your opponent has, the better this card becomes because you can get better cards. But if your opponent's playing a really bad deck, then this card's really bad because you're just grabbing a bad card off your opponent. Although it is always a card advantage, which is nice. Magus is quite good, but we already have a bunch of 4-drops, and we can't recur it with a Memory Dredger anyway. I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab this Sky Snapper here. I do like some early game aggressive threats that can go in for damage. And Feln is a deck that can be somewhat evasive. So let's go for the Sky Snapper here over these two cards. Although Stone Scar Magus is really good blocker. But then we have Torn Spiders as good blocker. Cyclops is a pretty good blocker. Yeah, let's get the Sky Snapper over the Suburb, which some people may not agree with, but let's do that. Here's another copy. I think I'm in the market for a Direfang Spider. Our early game curve is not great, and Direfang Spider being recurred by a Memory Dredger is infinite value, and we're not afraid of any big units, so this is great. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the 1-drop over the 4-drop here. Yep, Ravenous Thornbeast. This is a good card for a deck. Sacrificing things and being able to bring it back is excellent, and we really want to hope to pick up some Dark Wisps to fill this theme of sacrificing. But let's grab the Thornbeast over the second copy of Direfang Spider. Gorgon Fanatic. This is excellent. This is exactly the kind of card I want. I could have had a very aggressive Shadow deck, actually. 2 Knife Jacks. Second Knife Jack. But the Gorgon Fanatic is exactly the kind of card you want. I really want cards that helps me get through damage so that I can trigger these infiltrates. They're good, really good infiltrates, actually. All of our infiltrates are really good. Beast Collar, Thorn Beast, Memory Dredger, repeatable infiltrate. Second Sight, not great. We don't have any Echo cards to benefit from this, but neither is the Direfang Venomfem Dagger. Putting this onto a unit that are very small like ours is pretty much always just going to be a 2-for-1 trade in our disfavor. We don't have anything. You can put it onto the Longshot Marksman, which makes it really hard to block because it has quick draw, but it still needs a 3-2 and dies to pretty much any removal spell in the game. Not super fan of a conditional weapon like this. That's typically a better card if you put it into a unit with a lot of health, like a 1-5 or a 1-4, like in time. If we're going to splash green for Roland's Choice, so there's no green cards here. Let's just take the second Sky, and we're probably not going to play it, but we'll see. Yep, we'll grab this random 5-mana 3-5, I think, over the Herald's Song. I'm not sure if this Feln deck is something that can benefit from the Herald's Song. And we have very low top end, and having a 3-5 to just block with is not always bad. Yep, we'll grab this Yeti Troublemaker. Not gonna love it, but oh, perfect. Feln Banner, helping us fix mana. Oh, perfect. Lethari Ranger. Yeah, we're doing it. This coming in second last pick tells us that on the 4th pack, we're gonna get a lot of good black cards. Keitra is a bit of a trap. Very hard to make this card work. It's great when you do make it work, but it's really hard to make it work. Probably not going to use the Cloud Snake's Breeder. It's looking like we're very heavy in Shadow in the first few turns. We're going to play more Shadow sources than we do Primal sources, and this is not going to be a turn 2 play. I'm actually thinking more along the lines of grabbing the Skywalk Instructor here. We already have a decent number of 3-drops, so we don't need the Yeti, Crafty Yeti. This is not worth splashing. So really, I think it's just between the Cloud Snake Breeder and the Skywalk Instructor, and how reliable we think it is to trigger the spark of this thing. I don't think it's too reliable. Let's just grab the Skywalk Instructor. It is a 5-drop. That's a huge downside, but I think that's fine. Dragon Breath is okay. It's not good in this deck, by the way. It's not great. A lot of our units have pretty low attack, and that just means that this is going to be a removal spell only for small units. And there's no mentor-student gimmicks to benefit from the mentor of this card. So that's too bad. One good thing, though, is because we have some deadly units, like the Diaphragm Spider and the Torrent, Dragon Breath will allow you to kill pretty much any unit if we also have specifically those deadly units in play. I think that's fine. We'll pick it up. We could have had 3 Amethyst Rings. Not the best card. So here we have no blue choices. I think blue should be open this pack because we had some very late game blue cards on first pack. And Shadow should be open too. Both of those colors. Well, nothing in our colors that are playable. I think we'll just get the Horu Stranger here, giving us another way to splash green, which I think is good. Now we have 2 different ways to splash green, making this Roland's Choice a very, very likely candidate for our deck. Actually, that would help fix too, but we want the 2-drop. We'll take the 2-drop. Okay, I actually do like Fallen Oni. I think I've talked about this card a couple of times before in previous drafts. I think this card is deceptively okay. It's not as bad as when I first looked at it. I thought it was a terrible card, but now that I have a little bit more experience using it, I do think this card is playable. Ooh, late Cannon Bear. And nothing else. We can probably not splash the Rebel Rouser. We're not going to splash red, so we don't want the Skycrag banner at this point. I guess, if anything, we might splash the 8-drop here in green. I don't know, that seems unlikely, but we'll put it in. Hey, Horu banner. So I'm not going to pick up a second Skywalk Instructor. I think that's too much. I'm not sure what I like better between the Horu Stranger and the Horu banner. Because the Stranger really is just there for the fixing, and if you have enough fixing, I would rather play 2-drops that does things. The Hatchling helps you with Spark, but we only have 1 good Spark card, and we don't have a lot of good weapons to put onto the Hatchling to do damage with. So I don't think the Hatchling is something we want in our deck. It's more, I think it's better for a Spark focused Skycrag deck, or a Horu deck that likes to put weapons onto units. But I think we're actually going to grab the Horu banner here for fixing. Nope, not playing any of these cards. Shield Bash is most likely a... For splashing, this is most likely the thing we could splash, but even then, I don't imagine us using Shield Bash. We'll just grab this Hatchling and see if we'll find a way to use it later on. Yep, we'll take a 6-mana removal spell. That's perfectly fine for us. The Sanguine Sword is probably not bad, but we are really running out of... we don't have too many great cards to sacrifice with a sword. We don't have any Dark Wisps. We don't have the Gargoyle. So I think just getting an expensive removal spell is okay. We don't want this 3-drop, so we'll get this Skywalk Instructor with the expectations that we're likely not going to play both copies. Yep, we'll grab another Yeti. Yep, Amethyst Ring. This could be our 4th copy if we'd gone down that route. Celestial Omen in this deck. Is it good in this deck? As a 6-drop, I'm not sure if it's good enough. I actually think I would way rather just have this the Seek Power or the Desperado here. Even splashing the Crown Watch Cavalry in our deck is pretty decent. What I'm really sad though is I didn't pick up any Ice Balls. The last pack, blue was 100% cut. All the blue cards that we got were late, that were mediocre cards. None of the good premium blue cards. That makes me really sad. No Ice Bowl means no way to easily trigger Infiltrate, and we haven't picked up any Levitates or any unblockable tricks. So I think our deck's looking decidedly mediocre at this point. We don't have any powerful bombs. Crown Watch Cavalry is quite good. Desperado is okay, but without any way to guaranteed to trigger the infiltrate, this card most likely would just sit back and block or attack into one opponent's 2/2 and trade. That's really mediocre. Seek Power might actually be the best card. But we have 2 banners already, and we have 2 strangers, all of which are the exact right colors. So maybe the Crown Watch Cavalry is slightly better in this case. Yeah, let's take the... Oh, actually... No, a 5 power 4/4 is better. Let's take the Cobalt Monument. Even though we do have some very heavy power requirements that we want to get a 6, 7, and 8, I think the Cobalt Monument is only better than a Cavalry, only because this is a splash color, and if possible, the fewer splash cards, the better. Yeah, okay. Can't play that. Cobalt Cutthroat is a pretty good 2-drop, but I think Wisdom of the Elders is something this deck might need for card advantage. We have a bit of a mess here. We have a bunch of units that are kind of mediocre on their own. They, like, the Fanatic Beast Collar. None of these cards are likely going to get through to your opponent. So we are most likely going to get into some kind of board stall. So when that happens, I think having Wisdom of the Elder is pretty powerful. Whereas the lifesteal is fine, but we have no life force in our deck, and we have actually a decent number of 1 and 2 drops already. Yeah, let's just take the Wisdom of the Elders in this case. Oh, Execute. That's excellent. Yes, take the Execute. Much needed. Ooh, Levitate. Felon Stranger is also good, but I am in the market for Levitate. Oh, perfect. Dark Wisp. I'm in the market for Dark Wisp. We could have had a very aggressive Shadow deck, actually. We could have had many Knife Jacks. Huh. Oh, Dark Wisp it is. I love this card in this deck. Can't play anything here. I'll take the Pilfer. May not play it, though. Wow, look at this late Terrazon. I'm not going to take the banner because I'm not splashing red. So 0 of these cards are playable for us. We'll take the banner for fun because I like taking banners. Grim Stranger. We only have 2 Stranger in our deck though, but as a 2-drop is probably adequate. Nah, I have enough early game plays. I think Flash Freeze is pretty okay in our deck, and even a random 6/4 might help us close out the game. Flash Freeze is actually pretty good for a deck like this because you can Flash Freeze and get your infiltrates in, right? So that's why it's good. Without the infiltrate, the Flash Freeze is much worse. Like if you can Flash Freeze 2 things and get the Beast Color hidden, or even the Gorgon Fanatic, that's a lot of card advantage. Or like a Memory Dredger, bringing it back a unit. Yeah, I think that makes it better than a 6/4 here. Trickster's Cloak is good. That helps us with triggering Infiltrate, so it's much better than the Pilfer. And we're currently not splashing Combust, so it's not a good card. We'll take it though. Ooh, that's a very late Synchronized Strike. Scheme might be playable. Alright, our deck is okay. I was really worried by the 4th pack, because clearly on the 1st and 3rd pack, black and blue were... Blue was not open at all. Black was maybe somewhat open. We got what we can out of it, but they weren't great. But the last pack really helped us when we picked up a whole bunch of sort of missing pieces for our deck. Primarily the Levitate and the Cloak, which helps us trigger our Infiltrate. And that really helps. Let's put the Tranquil Squalor in here now. I don't think I'll play it, but let's put it in. With enough fixing, we can play a few green cards. Levitate, Dragon Breath, yes, good. We're going to treat the Cobalt Monument as an actual spell, as an actual unit. Flash Freeze is fine. Wisdom, these are all good. Yeti, I'm not sold on, but I think I'll put 1 copy in first. Troublemaker, I'm not sold on, but I'll put it in for now. I would rather have the 3/5 than a 2/3 Flying Aegis. We have no way to take advantage of the 2/3 flyer. Put 1 Skywalk Instructor in. We'll put the Meddling in there now, but may not need it. Not the Pilfer. Put the Scheme in for now. Torn Spiders is fine. We actually have a single weapon in this deck, and I believe it is the Cloak. So if we do draw the Cloak, we're most likely going to want to put it onto some unit with Infiltrate, so we're not going to play the Bludgeoner here. Dredger is fine. Obedience is okay. Roland's Choice is quite good. Yep, these are all very good. All right, with 31 cards to work with and a very, very top, high 3-drop slot. Let's take a look here. 19 units. So this deck has got a lot of spells. It's got 10 spells and 1 attachment. I think let's start looking at the spell cuts. I think Dragon Breath is really underwhelming in our deck. With 2 cards that has Deadly, and then a bunch of fairly small units. In fact, even on our very top end, we have 0 units that's bigger than a 5/5, except for like the 8 power one. I think Dragon Breath is really weak in a deck like this. I'm gonna cut it actually. I think this Crafty Yeti is certainly cuttable. Flash Freeze, I would like to keep. Actually, I don't think I need the Flash Freeze as much as I thought because before I picked up the Flash Freeze, I didn't have any ways for Infiltrate, but now I have Levitate. And I also have the Trickster's Cloak. So all of a sudden, the Flash Freeze has lost some value. Let's cut that as well. I think this is a 17 power deck, so we need to cut 2 more cards. Well, 18 power including the Monument, but more of a 17 power deck. Levitate helps us draw. Dark Wisp helps us draw. The Yeti can sometimes help us draw. So, and also Scheme helps us draw. So I think we can. Oh, and Awesome Wisdom of the other. So I think we can draw into more power when we need to. I'm looking at the Cerso's Meddling, but being a fast trick, it's not too bad. Execute. So in removal spell wise, we have Inspire Obedience, Meddling, kind of removal in Roland's choice, Execute, and then 2 deadly units. That might be enough. We might not need the Cerso's Meddling. Oh, this warrior is pretty weak sauce. A random 3/5. We don't actually have any units that block well except for this one, so I'm actually inclined to keep it. As weird as that sounds. Let's take a look at what we can cut in the 3-drops. Scheme might be able to go. Scheme might be able to go, but it does help us find power if we need it. Having 1 card in the deck that helps you filter is not bad, especially if you top deck it late in the game. So I think it's got some value. Maybe Tranquil Squalor. I'm splashing green. There's no guarantee that I can play on turn 2, and if I top deck it later on with no unit in my hand, it's pretty bad. So now we have to make 1 more cut. Oh no, this is 17 lands, right? Yeah, this is 17. Okay, so I think this is fine. Let's just put the power in now. So we have 2 banners that are usable. And just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep, so those 2. And then let's figure out our power source here. Our early game plays are primarily, actually all of them are really shadow, so we really want a heavier split of shadow cards, and in fact we don't even have too many primal, but the first double requirement card is double primal, and we only have a single double shadow card in the Dredger, but we have a bunch of double primal cards, right? No, just two. And we don't need to play Wisdom of the Elder on turn 3, so it's not really a 3-drop. Okay. 6, 7. So this is 7 shadow. 8 shadow. This is 8 shadow. That's definitely not enough. So we're going to have to cut something for more shadow. This gives us 9. Alright. Let's take a look at Justice. 2, 3. So this is 3 Justice. 4. This is 5 Justice. And we have 2 Justice cards. I think that's acceptable. But this is an 8-drop, so I mean, we don't need to play this until quite late in the game. 5, I think, is fine. I think 4. We might be able to get away with just 4, actually. So blue, we have 6, 7, 8, 9 blue. And 10 blue. We definitely don't need 10 blue. We want more shadow than we want blue. So let's go up another shadow. So this gives us 10 shadow, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 blue is more than enough. And 5 justice. Yep, this is pretty good. This this power base is quite nice. Having 2 banners and 2 strangers that are all the right colors is pretty good for our deck. All right, this deck turned out okay. Not great. It could be a lot better if we had a few more bombs, and also we could really have used a better curve and a little higher on the 2 drops. But we have some interesting tricks. We have a lot of interactions between cards within the deck. You know, Levitate works really well with any of the Infiltrate. Dredger works really well with Dark Wisp. Revenant's Beast with Wisp is a really good combo. Lethari Ranger coming back, getting ultimated again by Memory Dredger is also quite good. Then we have some kind of really expensive late game spells to help us punch through at the very end of the game. And you know, Trickster's Cloak helping us get through. And a couple of like just hard removal spells that don't care about the opponent's unit's size or abilities. It is also quite good. So I think this deck is a solid 7 out of 10. It's probably gonna go like 5-3 if without, you know, power related problems. Maybe 5-3, maybe 6-3 if we're lucky. So let's jump into some games.